Jesus Christ is canon to Kingdom Hearts. No, I will not elaborate. Hey kids, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and that you are having a great day. And in today's video, we are on the video game side of the garage. So we are going to be relaxing, sitting back, and having a nice, cozy little conversation about the current state of the video game market. Because on the off chance that you're not a big video game fan, there's been a lot of grumbling going on about video games recently, especially when it comes to certain companies increasing the prices of their consoles going forward and the prices of their video games going forward, especially for video games that have been that are essentially just reskins of existing games or games that have been out for 10 years. Companies doing things like releasing a video game console that has game cartridges that don't have the games on them. Stuff like that. And there's been a lot of stuff coming out from some of the biggest game companies in the business in the last few weeks. Some announcements that are kind of worrisome and others that are just kind of annoying. But this video is not about the recent video game news, or at least not directly about the recent video game news, because there are dozens upon dozens of other YouTube channels covering that topic as we speak, giving their opinion on not only the price increases, but the fact that you are being put as a customer in a very terrible position anytime you buy a video game that you don't physically own, which is where this actual video is going. You see, chances are, if you are one of my average viewers, then you're on the younger side. And if you are on the younger side, sub 20, which is where my YouTube analytics is placing some of you guys, there's a decent chance that you've not played something like 90% of the video game library that is out there. And that's a shame for two reasons, all right? One, there's a lot of good games out there that are just old as hell, older than I am, and that's saying something. Reason two, when you buy older consoles and older video games, retro games, consoles, and the lovely hardware needed to play them, you own them. No, you don't own a license to them. You are not borrowing them from the company. When you go to your local retro game dealer and you buy it's a good example. You buy a PlayStation 1, I have a PlayStation 1 over here. You pick up a PlayStation 1 for $90, $100, whatever. And then you buy some PS1 games for $15 to $20 a pop. Those are yours. The company that produces those games can't remove them from your library or ban you from playing them because you said or did something that they didn't agree with. They can't take the game offline and prevent anyone from ever playing it just because service has ended. They can't add patches into the game that changes something that you liked about the original release version. They can't do any of that and more. There's plenty of problems with modern day gaming to talk about, but what I'm trying to say here, and what I'm trying to really emphasize, is when you buy a retro video game, whether it's for the Atari, the NES, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, the Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, GameCube, we had Wi-Fi, but not really a lot of Wi-Fi updates. Point is, when you buy these older games, the older game consoles, they're there. They're there forever. You don't have to pay a subscription service to the company Nintendo to have access to your games that can be lost if you lose access to the internet for a few days. Or Nintendo just decides to take the game offline for whatever reason. Remove it from your subscription plan. When you buy older video games, they're yours. short of a fire or theft, they're going to stay around in your library. And yeah, there's downsides. They're physical, they take up space. It can be annoying to track them down if they're not all on your little tablet. But, and this is important, so I'm going to put it out there is no greater value than physically owning the games that you enjoy. Part of why I do not engage with things like Magic the Gathering Arena or Pokemon TCG Pocket or online or whatever they call it nowadays is because you don't physically own those games. You don't physically own those cards. And when you are paying for something that you don't own, I tend to see it as exclusively negative. If I am being told that I am paying for a game that can be taken from me at any moment, I am instantly disincentivized from ever engaging with that game ever again. Doesn't matter if it's the best game on the planet, by the way. You know, they announced Bloodborne 2 for the Switch 2. And right now, it looks like it's going to be a digital download only. For those of you who don't know, I absolutely freaking love Bloodborne. I think it's one of the best games ever made. And I know that's not actually called Bloodborne 2, but it's a Bloodborne, like Soulsborne game. It's Bloodborne 2. But my point is, I love Bloodborne. But a Bloodborne that I cannot physically own on a disc or a cartridge, one that I might lose access to, depending on how these Switch 2 games are done, how they're handled by the company. Yeah, that disincentivizes me from ever buying it. That tells me right there that I will never be interested in purchasing that game. Because, look, possession is 9/10 of the law, they say. Well, possession is also like 9/10 of the power exchange between you and a company. And when a company is what owns the games that you are paying for, they have a lot of leverage over you. Okay? And they get to kind of dangle the keys to your own game in front of you while they're sucking money out of your pocket to fund their crazy expenditures. I don't think that's an actual word. My point is, look behind me and go to any retro game channel on YouTube. You're going to find a veritable library. A massive library, larger than anything that's on any game console currently. There's a huge library of old games that are amazing. I promise you. There are games from the last 30, 40 years of video game history that have told some of the greatest stories, have some of the best gameplay mechanics, some of the best gameplay sequences. Not talking about you, Crash Bandicoot wall levels. That popped in my head just there. But there are some really amazing games from the history of gaming. Shadow of the Colossus, The Legend of Zelda, Dark Souls 1, going back even further, Ninja Gaiden, all the Disgaea games, the Dot Hack quadrilogy. Some of the earlier Pokemon stuff is pretty good, I have to confess. The Ghost in the Shell game for the PlayStation 1. Medieval. I know most people don't like the Neopets game for PS2, but I like it a lot. It's a really bad game, but I enjoy it. You know, Perfect Dark, Fear Effect, all kinds of great games, you know, that a lot of people just haven't experienced, and they can't experience on modern hardware for one reason or another. So yeah, you know, instead of spending, what was it, like $700 for a Switch 2 or something, instead of spending some absurd amount of money on the new hardware that has games that you don't own, spend $100 or so on a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, a GameCube, and spend another $100 on a handful of games that you've heard good reviews from online. And I almost guarantee that you're going to have a better experience, or at the very least, you're going to have a pretty freaking good experience. And yeah, I know older games don't have chat, replay lobbies with your friends on Discord, Twitch, or whatever. They don't need to. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have the friend element when you're playing games. Obviously, humans are social creatures. But if you're mostly just interested in the gaming experience as it is, you don't need it. And these are some really solid titles from back in the day. I should have mentioned Prince of Persia. There's some really solid Prince of Persia games. The first Assassin's Creed was pretty awesome too. This was meant to be a shorter video. And I just want to say, there's a lot of grumbling going on in the gaming world right now. For a few reasons. There's still some pretty dog shit games being released that have some elements that people just... Nobody's asking for them. Nobody wants them. There are some really solid games being released. Don't get me wrong. There's some really good titles in this year's lineup. There's something 33. Like 3 of my friends have told me to play that game, and I guess I'll have to get around to that at some point. But yeah, look, just remember that at no point do you need to have the newest hardware and the newest software. It's not required. Chances are you can save a few $100 and buy an older piece of hardware, some older games, and have just as good, if not a better time, just playing some of the classics from back in the past. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I recommend just Googling some good games on some console you're interested in, and you're probably going to find something worth playing. Anyway, that's all I've got. If you kids enjoyed this little ramble rant, let me know with a like, share, subscribe, a comment below, and I will see you in the next one.